Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with me through that break. If you are just tuning in for the first time here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network, we have had a full show. We started off talking about the running back market that has seemingly done a 180 since last season. Everyone getting signed, moving around instead of getting franchise tagged and staying where they are. It's been crazy to watch. A lot of people, a lot of familiar faces, and a lot of new places. So that's going to be very exciting to see next season. We talked a little bit about some of the massive trades, including Brian Burns being traded to the Giants for a second and a fifth and getting that massive 5-year, $150 million contract. And in our third segment, we just finished talking about the quarterback moves and how it affects our good friend and buddy Justin Fields, a guy that has gotten so much airtime around the entire NFL media and this show. Very interesting situation that the Bears find themselves in with that, so go check that out. And in this segment, like I was saying, there has been lots of breaking news. And when I say lots of breaking news, I mean enough to make a whole segment out of it. While we have been doing our show, and while we were doing prep for this show. So we're going to throw that all in to segment 4 here. We're going to go over some of the big free agent moves. There was one big college football news that I'm going to try and squeeze in there if we have time. If not, we'll talk about that tomorrow. But yeah, this is going to be our big free agency update segment. But before we get into that fourth and final segment, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net, leave a tip or donation. We appreciate anything you do give. If you do leave that tip or donation, it'll pop up on the bottom of the screen with your message. Stay up there for a minute. We'll have a little conversation about what you have to say. It's not just going to be the people in your comment section that are going to see it. It's going to be the entire world that we are streaming to, that being 2 channels on YouTube, Twitch, and X/Twitter. Everywhere else we are streaming across all streaming platforms for podcasts as well. They're going to be able to hear your message along with you. We appreciate anything that you do give. Again, that link to donate is gsmcpodcast.net. But we have a lot to get through in this segment. So let's just get right into it. Free agency updates. And we're going to start with one that happened before the show, directly before the show, about 10 minutes while I was getting prepared. Kenny Moore the second on the Colts. Kenny Moore the second, an elite nickel corner, gets paid like an elite nickel corner. He is re-signing with the Indianapolis Colts, 3 years, $30 million. And you might be saying, that doesn't sound like an elite contract. It's a nickel corner position, a position that $10 million a year resets the market. That is the new record for a nickel corner to be paid. He has 13 interceptions in the last 2 seasons, which leads the entire position by a large margin. He is not just a really great pass defender, but having a guy like Kenny Moore in that locker room for leadership, for run support as well. He's a very good tackler in the run game. Kenny Moore is very important to that Colts defense that is stingy. They might not be the best defense in the league, but they are very good at creating turnovers. It's something that's been kind of coded into their DNA. We're going to get the ball. It's bend, don't break. We're going to turn you over 2 times a game. It's very fun to watch. It's a little risky sometimes, and it doesn't always work. But when it does, they can go toe-to-toe with just about any offense. And we've seen that a whole bunch of times throughout the years. Kenny Moore is a huge part of that. They had Shaq Leonard, who was another big part of that. He was let go last season. But keeping Kenny Moore around is a huge part. And the Colts have done a lot of signing this offseason. The Colts are a very interesting team. They haven't signed anyone from the outside. You keep hearing about the Colts in the news. They've got Michael Pittman back. They've got offensive linemen back. They've got now Kenny Moore back. It's really interesting. They're one of 5 teams that have yet to sign a free agent from the outside. The Bucks are another one, who we were talking about them before with Baker Mayfield and everything that's been going on with Carlton Davis as well in that second segment. They signed Lavonte David. Again, the Bucks are one of those 5 teams, along with the Colts, who have yet to bring in an outside free agent. They bring in, they re-sign Lavonte Davis. It's only a 1-year deal worth up to $10 million. Lavonte David is not quite the same guy he was during those Super Bowl runs, but he is still an elite player on offense. He is still a not on offense, on defense. Excuse me. He still has the ability to be an elite linebacker there. His athleticism, his speed, his ability in coverage is something that's at the top of the league still. So bringing him in on that cheap deal, it's not too much commitment for a guy that started to go down the hill, but a guy that's important to that defense. Again, a lot of these guys that are being brought in, being brought back later in the free agency frenzy, the beginning of free agency, are these locker room guys that still have a little bit left in the tank. They're important to that team. Levante David is absolutely one of those guys. So it's good to see him there. Um, a big one that happened as well while we were live has to be the uh, the Washington Commanders signing Jeremy Chin, 1 year deal, leaves Carolina, and that's like the second or third defender that Washington has poached from Carolina. They got Frankie Louvu, who a very very good linebacker. He's going to be a huge part of that rebuilding defense on a 3 year, $36 million deal. But Jeremy Chin is a guy that I really like to watch. He exploded onto the scene his rookie year. He had like 2 or 3 pick sixes. He was a lot of fun to watch. Ball hawking safety, big hitter. Um, I love watching Jeremy Chin. I love watching him play. I love watching the style of play that he has. It's one of those things that he's kind of a strong safety linebacker type guy more than the free safety center field. And what Washington really needs is just players on that defense. They were thrown over, thrown through, ran over, ran around all of last season. They just needed to get something done. And adding guy like Jeremy Chin, who is so versatile, he can play linebacker, he can play safety, he can be that ball hawk. I think that's a really, really good deal, really underrated. We talked a little bit about safeties earlier this week or last week. Um, the safety market is a really interesting one. Not from today's show, but from yesterday, Xavier McKinney, guy who was let go by the Giants, signed to the Packers for 4 years, $68 million. Huge contract for him. He is very good. He's more of that free safety type than Jeremy Chin, while he's more of a strong safety. Um, so I'm very interested to see how this plays out in Washington. I think it's a really good signing for them. Like I said, I love Jeremy Chin. I think he brings a lot to the table defensively. The Panthers' defense has been gutted. They were already really short-handed, but now they've lost Brian Burns, they've lost Frankie Louvu, they've lost Jeremy Chin, and I believe they've lost a couple other guys. Um, but it's the Panthers are going to be a mess next season. There's still time in free agency, but if the season started today, I think they're the worst team in the league again. They haven't done a lot to be better. Uh, Coming up on tomorrow's show, actually, we're going to go through winners and losers of the first 48 hours of the tampering period, because the tampering period officially ends tomorrow and the real free agency starts. So it's really interesting, the distinction between them, but we're going to do a breakdown who won, who lost, coming up tomorrow. Uh, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on some of these moves. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to do a whole lot of that, breaking down team by team, winners, losers, stuff like that, as well as any other breaking news that happens later tonight. That college football news that I teased earlier, we're going to go over tomorrow as well. That having to do with revenue split for the college football playoffs. We'll talk about all that tomorrow. But thank you everybody so much for tuning in to today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in and sticking around. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you then. Bye-bye. Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn.